really the goal is just to use our stories to bring veterinary medicine to life for the pet caretakers of the world. And we're doing it because we believe that educating these caretakers is the most powerful thing that we can do to improve the life quality of all of the pets that we love. Okay, let's do it. I'm Dr. Natalie Keith.
Dr. Josiah Dame.
Vet Tales.
Mm-hmm.
Northside Veterinary Hospital.
Yes.
Here we are again.
Here we are. Dr. Keith keeps giving me kind of tough / controversial topics.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, our last one was the Rainbow Bridge together.
Which is a tough one.
That's a tough one. And then our next topic is not challenging for the same reasons, but for all new ones.
Yes.
Tell them what
Lots
it is.
of opinions. We are going to be talking about nutrition.
Yeah.
So dog food and cat food.
Yeah. I was like thinking of things that what could be like universally helpful for people. And I was like, everyone feeds their pet.
Everybody does it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you want to keep them around for very long, it must be done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big topic. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of marketing and propaganda and opinions. People get very, very passionate about food. And other people like don't care at all and maybe are undervaluing the importance of their food choices.
And maybe we'll hopefully clear up the muddy water slightly.
Yeah.
By doing this, and we're not gonna be able to cover every topic, obviously, since it is like this is coursework basically. Like you could spend years. People do.
Yes.
Learning, researching, etc.
Yeah.
But hopefully we make it a little bit more clear at the end of it of what is most important.
Yeah.
When picking a diet.
Yeah, and I think it's a great intro. Like, we can always go back more, like, break it down more. What if you have food sensitivities? What if you need prescription food? What about supplements? But we want to just, like, highlight a lot of the big, broad stuff first.
Yeah.
So, okay. I think maybe the best part to start with would be just, like, commercial diets. Like, your normal dog food that you buy at the store. Let's talk about what's important and what's not.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, which came about in the 90s, I believe, is the AAFCO statement, which is usually the first thing I tell people, like, hey, if you're going to go buy a food, make sure it has an AAFCO statement.
Yeah, which is AAFCO.
And that means Association of American Feed Control Officials.
That sounds so important.
So important. And it's a private, nonprofit organization, meaning it's not tied to any of the dog food companies.
Yes.
And it defines the ingredients used in animal feed and food, and they get a approval of their diets through AAFCO that says that this food has everything that your dog needs
to have a complete balance.
Complete balanced,
diet.
Normal diet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to maybe note that these AAFCO standards are based off of a 2-year-old intact male, which is the highest metabolic demand of most dogs, with the exception, of course, of like growing puppies and lactating females, which that's a growth stage. So you can have an AAFCO for all life stages or just adult mature.
Yep.
Dogs, and so it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, and that's where the complete and balance comes in, because that's the assurance of whatever this bag is saying it's for, like a large breed puppy or a small breed puppy or a neutered or spayed female dog, that it's complete and balanced for that grouping.
Yep. Yeah, because large breed puppies, that is one of the outliers. Like, those dogs have a different requirement. In fact, like, if you're just feeding them a normal puppy food, you're going to get your calcium phosphorus ratios off. Their bones aren't going to grow at the right rate. We're going to, risk potentially having, more arthritis issues down the line. So it's just all sorts of important details that go into those kind of breed specific feeding recommendations.
Yeah. And for the client and me a little bit, where do you find the AAFCO statement?
On the back of the bag.
The back of the bag, yeah. And then complete and balanced usually will be on the front.
Yes, and I also want to just talk a little bit about the back of the bag in sense of it will give you feeding recommendations. But listen, y'all, again, it is for a 2-year-old intact male. If you have a 7-year-old spayed female, she doesn't need that much. You're going to feed typically 20 to 25% less than what it's recommending because she doesn't need as much energy to maintain her body weight.
Exactly.
And they just go bloop and they get all chubby.
Yeah. And that's like my dog. I don't feed him what is exactly recommended on the back of the bag. I feed him less than that. Of course, what do we use to kind of base on how much should we feed is, I guess, kind of the next thing that we could talk about is the biggest kind of scale for us is not necessarily the scale. It's the body condition score.
Right.
And going off of, okay, where is your dog on the body condition score?
Right.
Which is a scale that is created.
There's a couple
of them.
them.
Actually, yeah. Purina's is 1 through 9. Purina has a scale. And basically it says, can you see fat on the dog? Can you see the ribs? How is the stomach kind of tucking underneath the dog, or is it hanging? It helps you classify, okay, this is where this dog is. It's probably X amount of pounds overweight, comparing it on the scale, the body condition score scale.
Percentage, yeah.
And then that kind of helps you to decide, okay, yeah, let's cut back on the food. Because with my dog, he will gain weight over a week if I'm feeding him a little bit more, or he gets into the cat food, etc. And so that sometimes even shifts how much I'm feeding him the following week.
They love cat food.
They love cat food. So yeah, when he gets into that food, I'm like, okay, I probably need to cut back on, for a little bit if he's gotten up to like 20 pounds, because he should be 18.
Yeah.
And then I kind of work our way back down. And how I tell that is his body condition score. So I'm not weighing him all the time, but I can't feel his ribs as well anymore. His stomach starts
He loses a little tuck.
Yeah, his stomach he gets a beer gut.
Yeah. I mean, it is
belly.
kind of like people, it's the same thing. Like, weighing yourself obsessively all the time may not be healthy, but like when your clothes don't fit good, right?
Yes.
You need to like modify
That's kind of
your plan.
The thing is like when he's looking like his belly's going to hit the floor because he's a dachshund, I'm like, cut back on your food a little bit, a certain percentage, and then reassess.
Yeah. And it is a balance. And it does change throughout their life. What they need at one stage may not be what they need going down the road. And so keeping an eye on that. And then, of course, if you're adding anything else into their diet, like treats and whatever, snacks, that kind of thing, that's going to all impact how much you're feeding them as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I guess we can talk about with treats. A lot of people will decide that maybe they want to supplement the diet with like vitamins.
Yeah.
But if you have an AFCO statement diet, you shouldn't need to.
Yeah, you could actually be over supplementing them. Like they may have too much then calcium in their diet, or too much of a certain, mineral or something like that could be not good for them. So if they're already on an AFCO balanced diet, like there's just no need in that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I think adding in other things can be really helpful still. I like, there's that thing where people will come in and they're in one of two categories. One is like their dog only eats human food, or they are so proud because they'll be like, we decided when Fluffy was a puppy, like, no people food. And so he just does not get people food. And I think that both of those extremes are unnecessary. Like, human food is actually not bad for dogs, but the human food that we shouldn't be eating either is bad for dogs. And so, giving them carrots or green beans or apple slices, I mean, all those things can be really great for dogs. Max, every day I eat a sweet potato, pretty much every day, sometimes twice. I don't want to talk about it. It's fine. Max always gets part of it. He loves the sweet potatoes.
Doc got a carrot last night.
Yeah.
And also, I have a almost 1-year-old, so not getting people food has gone out the window.
1-year-old human, let's clarify.
Yes, 1-year-old human.
Yeah.
So my dog, who is almost 8 or 9, out the window. He eats people food now. He used to not, but now that food is being thrown on the floor.
Yeah, it's just game over.
It's game over. But the things that my 11-month-old is eating, he's eating, unseasoned whole foods, which are fine. So like ground turkey.
Yeah, there's so few
boiled
exceptions.
Carrots.
Like, you know them off the top of your head. Like grapes and raisins, garlic, onions. You don't want them to get the avocado seeds, apple seeds. Those are the few that come. Macadamia nuts, which I always think is weird.
Yeah, that one always throws me off.
Who eats macadamia nuts?
I
Unless
love
it's in a cookie.
white chocolate macadamia
But that's
nut
it.
cookie.
Like in a cookie, right? Don't give your dogs cookies.
Yes, don't.
Yeah. And then, of course, chocolate.
Yes, always.
So, yeah, I think for the most part, there are very few exceptions to the rule on whole foods.
But should people food be their primary source?
No.
No.
Yeah, if you're going to home cook let's just do it.
Yeah,
Let's just
let's
go.
jump into that.
Here we go. Home cooking. If you want to home cook your dog's food, I support you.
Me too.
I love it. We don't have all these chemicals. We don't have all this processing. There, it's not going through that extrusion process with the extreme heat. Da, 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 da. But you have to get it balanced, which is pretty much going to require a supplement.
Yep.
There's just not really any logical way around that. And there are tools out there like balanceit.com. We recommend people go there all the time, and they have supplements. So like you create your diet, you're like, my dog loves spinach and blueberries and turkey, and I'm going to put in olive oil as their natural healthy fat, and whatever the thing is. And you put in what you're going to use for ingredients, and they tell you which supplement then you're going to need for that dog's diet. And they have board certified veterinary nutritionists, which there's only like 100 in the whole
There's not
country.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so the odds of a board certified nutritionist double checking our facts on this are pretty low because there's not many of them out there. But if they ever hear this and there was anything that was not 100% spot on, like, we are welcoming.
Please email us.
Yes, please.
We will do a little correction.
Because you don't get a lot of this in vet school. You have to really learn it on your own, I think.
Yeah. There's electives, and then some professors are really into it, and they'll bring it up.
Yeah, and you have to be careful too about like where are you getting your information from, because if they are a company that's making money off of you recommending their food, like you have to start questioning.
Yeah. And then Balance It will send you that supplement in the mail. And
Yes.
it's like a scoop on top
Yeah.
of the diet that they've already told you this is how much you should give.
Yeah,
And
so handy.
They will also pair you up, I believe. I was looking yesterday at their website. You can consult with
Yes.
those nutritionists, and you can talk to them and maybe tell
You
them.
as in the client.
Yeah, and tell them, hey, my dog is going through a health change. And then maybe they will adjust that diet for you.
Yeah.
Because maybe you need higher protein, less carbs,
Mm-hmm.
depending on, what kind of disease you have, or you need
The life stage of the dog.
life stage of the dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they also will customize like how much to feed your dog based off the ingredients. How much does your dog weigh now versus what it should weigh? Whether you're trying to gain or lose weight for your pet, or if it's ideal, it will give you this like range of calories that then translates into how many cups of food you're giving your dog of this home cooked diet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's really cool. It's an awesome website. I've had people who have gotten to use it have had really good success.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are like at wit's end because it's like a skin issue or something. And they need
There's
to be
a
on
medical reason why
Yeah.
they've decided to make this choice. Some people just like to home cook
Yeah.
too,
Me, I don't have time to home cook.
Same.
So personally, my dog eats a commercial diet, Purina Pro Plan.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, my dogs have been on Purina 1 for literally 20 years, unless they have like a need. So like Max is on a prescription joint food,
Yeah,
which
and-
is, a whole nother podcast. In fact, if you want to like flip over to the tale of arthritis, we talk about it there.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, like we may get hate for this, but I don't think it's necessary to spend top shelf money on these commercial dog foods. Like, don't buy the really, really low end, because they're going to have way too much salt. They're going to have a whole lot more processing. The source of their ingredients isn't going to be as great. They're probably not going to have as much meat as their source of protein as they need. But like those middle of the road diets, like the Purinas, I think are
Hills.
yeah.
Which is a step above,
Yeah.
probably cost-wise at least. And then
Cost wise at least. And that's always a question. Like, are
Yeah.
you just paying for
the name.
the marketing?
But yeah, Doc was on Purina 1 for his whole life, did very well on it. He started to have a lot of seasonal skin issues. So I put him on the Purina Pro Plan Sensitive Skin and Stomach. And
Which probably has like loaded with fish oils.
Loaded
Yeah. So
with
you
fish
could
oils.
alternatively, you could just add in fish oils.
Yeah.
It's probably shouldn't say this on a veterinary podcast, but a million ways to skin a cat, and that's kind of the thing, is that there's so many approaches. And I think that's why people get so overwhelmed.
and then the marketing too.
The marketing is powerful.
It's,
Yeah. Let's talk about grain-free marketing.
Oh, yeah. That's another, there's a couple marketing things that have happened, but grain-free was like all the rage like
all the rage
before I went into vet school.
Yes.
And then as I was going to vet school, which was around 2016, and maybe before then, the FDA came out with this huge thing that was like, hey, we're seeing these dog breeds that never got heart disease before, called DCM or dilated cardiomyopathy. They're getting this disease, and we are figuring out why. And it was linked to grain-free diets.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It is interesting because it's a disease process that we also saw back in probably the 70s, which, neither of us were here then, but where they had cats that were just eating tuna. And they were taurine deficient, and they were developing dilated cardiomyopathy. And so then we start all of a sudden seeing this in a non-breed related way in dogs, and they started thinking maybe it's diet again. And so then sure enough, when they tracked it down, they were like, oh, it's all these pea and lentil diets and boutique foods. They're not balanced.
Yep.
And that this is not, dogs are omnivores technically. They're classified more like a bear than unlike a cat, which is going to be a strictly carnivore. And they were just lacking what they needed in that nutrient panel. So if somebody's like, but my dog loves this grain-free food, I'm like, great, because you also just boil him some brown rice
and throw it on top. Yep.
And we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
So, again, so there's a lot of different approaches, but the marketing on that was so powerful. Clients would just tooth and nail argue with me all day long about it, and we, like, as veterinarians, we kind of knew there was something not right with this grain-free diet. People were saying that was the cause of the dog's skin allergies, and we were all like, I just don't think so, man.
Yeah.
Like, but celiac was really, common in people at the time. Everybody's going gluten-free in people, and they were like, oh, dogs should be gluten-free too. In fact, let's make them grain-free. And this cart just ran way ahead of its horse.
And I think another reason why that happened, this is interesting, and another reason why I think that happened is because the grain-free diets are usually novel protein.
Yeah.
So it was
being slightly
exactly.
successful.
Yeah, the skin did get better because
you're on duck and pea.
Yes,
it's the duck,
and it's the chicken that most dogs are allergic to if they have
a true food allergy.
It's going to be most likely chicken or beef.
Yeah.
And so when they switched them to duck or they switched them to a salmon, you're like,
ta-da!
Yeah, it got better. And it was like, oh yeah, but it was the protein, not the rice that was in the food.
But luckily, so we ended up with this FDA study that was like, y'all, grain-free is not the answer.
Yes.
It's not. And there's a lot of research that's in food allergies specifically that were like, y'all, it's not the grain.
It's not the grain. And I've seen dogs with DCM related to their food.
Now the good news is you take them off the grain-free diet, you put them back on a diet that is with grains, and a lot of that disease process will resolve. And some of those foods are AFCO labeled because they were meeting all of the basic vitamin and mineral minimums, the minimum crude protein, all those things, and so it's scary.
Yeah, it was tough, but we know now, and the FDA has a wonderful article on it. If you wanted to Google it, just like grain-free diet canine FDA, and you can look at all the research they did.
Yeah,
it's a really well done study.
Yes. Something we can really hang a hat on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So as far as commercial diets, I think that kind of hits our high points. Like, we want to make sure that we're staying on something that's for the signalment of the pet, meaning their breed, age, size, their, are they spayed or neutered versus intact, all of those things. We talked about, high end versus low end, and then we have this grain-free fad. So I kind of feel like we've covered a lot on the commercial stuff.
Yeah, I think to tie a bow on it probably would be make sure there's an AFCO statement on the back of the bag.
Yep.
Make sure it says complete and balanced for whatever signalment you're choosing, so age, breed, and then don't do grain-free unless directed by a veterinarian.
Yeah, and if your dog is towards the chubby side, don't feed what it's saying on the back of the bag if your dog is not intact, especially.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So then, we touched on the home cooked, but there is another type of food now that's growing in popularity. I personally love it. It's just so expensive.
Yeah. And that is farmer's dog, probably.
Yeah,
it
is. Farmer's dogs, the fresh frozen foods. We're not going through that extrusion process. There's not extreme heat, so we're keeping most of our proteins intact.
And fresh frozen, we're not saying raw. that we're talking about
Let's
right now.
yeah, we
That's
just
going to be
to
different
yeah, let's
in a second.
Yes, let's be clear. It is cooked. It is not raw.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother can.
Which we'll crack in a second.
Yeah, we will. So essentially, these are used. They're whole foods that they're making a complete, well-balanced diet. So you're not having to supplement these in like a home cooked diet. It's coming like pre-complete.
Farmer's Dog has an AFCO statement
Yes.
for all of their diets.
And so we're saying Farmer's Dog because that is one. There's also Just Food for Dogs, and then I have not tried this one yet. Because it's relatively new to my knowledge, but it's called Nom Nom, which I think is so stinking cute. Nom 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 Nom. Nom. And they also have a veterinary nutritionist on staff. All three of these companies do, and so they have the nose. They know what they're doing, the knowledge to create these really good quality foods. But I haven't tried Nom Nom. But they. Just Food for Dogs is interesting because they have a lot of prescription lines as well.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So, like, if your dog has they've got a veterinary prescription line. It's not like as extensive as Hills or Purina with your kibble formatting, but they're dabbling in it and exploring it, and they also have really cool so basically when you get these, it comes in this box that's got like dry ice in it, and you've got these frozen pouches that then you thaw as you go to feed your dog, and it comes out like squeegee, like a, like a
Go-Gurt.
Like a Go-Gurt for dogs. Exactly. Yummy. They do look a little, ugh, but my dogs obsess. They like literally, if I don't have that, there's pouting that happens. So anyway, all this to be said, there's the Just Food for Dogs also has this version that's more like, you know how you can get like soup in the little cartons? Mm-hmm. They have that where it's the dog's food in that format. So if you're a camper or you're traveling, you're going to go on vacation. If you need to take your dog to boarding and you're not sure that they're going to have like the refrigeration space for it.
Shelf stable.
Thank you. Yes, that's the words I needed. Shelf stable.
Like almond
carton.
milk that's on the shelf, which is more of like a United Kingdom thing. But
but no, it happens. Yes, you could. Mm-hmm. So they have that version as well, which I think is only them. I think Just Food for Dogs.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only know most of my Farmer's Dog stuff, so
yeah,
I'm gonna look into Just Food for Dogs now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, and I think price compatibility, they're all really, really similar.
Yeah,
but it can be brutal. Like, so for my 95-pound Shepherd, I mean, we're talking $500 a month.
Yeah, and personally, that's not gonna happen for my dog probably financially.
Yeah,
and so we understand that too. But he's doing so well on his food that I don't have that concern.
Yeah, if it became like a need, then
I would assess it. Yeah, definitely. And that's another good point is we should just to circle back a little bit, but not all foods are going to be like my dog's doing really well on this Purina Pro Plan sensitive skin and stomach, but another dog might not do well on it. And so
absolutely, it's very dog specific.
Yeah.
Pet specific. We all, just within my family, my human family alone, we have all sorts of random food intolerances.
Yeah.
Which makes cooking interesting.
Always fun.
Always fun. I love it. It's such a good time. So anyway, that. Do you want to dabble into raw now? Because I think that's the last big category that I'm aware of.
So raw, recently, I would say, 2020 maybe a little bit before, was becoming very popular.
Mm-hmm. I feel like before. I mean, I was starting to have those talks before COVID, where clients would be like, "This is the best thing ever," and I'm like,
Yes. So raw makes a lot of us nervous, and the CDC has even started to put out things because it has become so popular.
Yeah.
And here's why we get nervous and why I personally do not recommend raw. Mm-hmm. So it is a risk for basically cross-contamination, Salmonella, E. coli, to the pet and the owner.
Yeah.
And that's CDC's big thing, too, is that they've been putting out. So you can, if you wanted to go look at that, you can put raw diets, CDC, and it'll come up with really cool infographic things that will kind of explain some of this. But personally, I have seen dogs get sick on raw diets, or it doesn't seem to be, I didn't double check this then, but some of the dogs that I've seen have been smaller breed dogs who probably are getting way too many fats in the food. And they're dealing with a lot of like
it's not cooking out, yeah.
yeah, a lot of the liver side effects. So I'm seeing these dogs with
Or pancreas.
So they're struggling internally because of these foods, because it's probably too high in fat, and it's just hurting. And a Yorkie probably doesn't need to be on this raw diet.
Yes. I have a tail. Like
Ooh.
I try to remember to put a tail in everyone.
Yeah.
Here's mine. A client acquired a serval kitten.
Yeah.
Was going to breed Savannahs. Did, in fact, but this has been 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
6. Yeah, so this has been, but it's a serval, so it's a little different there. But anyway, they get this kitten. They've had it for like 2 weeks, and I rock up to the clinic one morning, and as I'm getting out of my car and like walking in the building, here comes Dad holding said kitten, just like a limp dish rag. And I was like,
remember this.
Yes.
I was an assistant.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, so, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I was like, oh man, I don't know what's going on, but it's bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, not Cliff Notes, but spoiler alert, right? We're talking about food, so we're in raw diets. But here we go. As I am unfolding this story, he brings me said limp kitten. Now, they've paid a ton of money for this cat, and she's only maybe like 8 or 9 weeks old at the time. 9? Probably 9 weeks. And so we get her in, and she's, kind of breathing fast, and her temperature is through the roof. Like, I think she had like a 105 temperature or something. And we really don't know what's going on with her, but we suspect this is GI based off of Dad's having seen her vomit. Like, she didn't eat, and then she got really weak. And so we're like, is this viral? Like, is it panleukopenia? Does she have a foreign body? She's a kitten. Did she eat string? Like, what's going on? So we run some basic blood work. Sure enough, her white count's elevated. So great. That tells us very little to narrow this down. And then it's probably not viral because her neutrophil count is so high. And so we start what we call a barium study, which is we give her barium as she's nearly unconscious, which is a good thing because I don't know how else we would have treated this cat. She was waspy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we give her barium through an esophageal tube. And the barium is this high contrast medium that's helping us see GI motility. So I'm trying to watch this barium throughout the day move through her digestive tract to see if we have a perforation, do we have an obstruction, like is there motility? So no, and yes are the answers. No obstruction, no perforation, and yes, she has GI motility. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, gosh, I didn't notice her heart was big earlier. Look how big her heart is. Why didn't I catch that in the first x-ray? That's so weird. And I go back to the first x-ray, and I'm like, her heart wasn't big then, 3 hours ago. What is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? Why is her heart literally getting bigger as 3 hours have passed? And so I pop an ultrasound probe on her, and she has pericardial effusion, meaning there's fluid in the sac that should only have the heart in it.
Yeah.
And instead, she's got a massive amount of fluid that's like definitely flecked. Like, so, like, as in, you can see floaties.
Yeah.
Floaties in the fluid. And I'm like, this is bad. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you one thing. It's bad.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm panicked. And I start calling every veterinarian referral service on planet Earth. Or within driving distance, anyway. We don't see servals. We don't see servals. We don't see servals. I'm like, okay, Kat, it's me and you. Like, we're going the distance. So I tap her pericardial effusion. I drained it out, and it literally looked like pus, like brown, liquidy, ew.
Man.
Uh-huh. And so at this point, we've got her on fluids. We're doing all the things. I at this point, we know she's septic, so we've got her on antibiotics and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, she actually did really well. She recovered with the best guesses I could come up with on this antibiotic thing. We sent out the fluid, and it was E. coli. She had gotten food poisoning from her chicken, raw chicken, and just nearly killed her.
Yep.
So that was the day where I was like, told you guys I don't like raw food.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the servals are different, and I think the owner still continues to feed raw food to this day. It was kind of a fluke, but they probably do some different, like, prep work. Yeah. I don't really know.
I mean, and what I saw in the Yorkie eating raw that had really high liver values, I mean, it was the same thing. It was just the infection was in the liver.
Yeah.
and it responded to antibiotics. So,
yeah. So once you get a hold of it, but yeah, you can get sick from it. The owners can get sick if you're handling the fluids of the animal. Like, you can get E. coli from them, and that's why. And then of course you're handling raw meat, blah blah blah. Which we all handle raw meat to cook it, unless you're vegetarian. But if you're cooking meat, you're going to touch it. But once that raw chicken has hit their bowl, or they drag it onto the floor, or they eat it and then they're pooping out the stuff.
Yes, because they do shed the bacteria typically in their stool. So
even if they're not getting sick,
yes,
you could get sick.
Yes. So there's a whole many layers to that.
Onions.
Yeah.
Just peeling them back.
Yeah. So
don't do raw.
And
please.
Maybe consider, instead of raw, cooking the food and getting balanced. So that's like a great middle ground. And like we said, we are not against fresh food.
Or if you can do steak for your animals, just sear the outside. Like my mom, she says, just walk by the stove with my steak and that'll do it.
Still mooing.
Still mooing. For those of you who can't handle raw meat, they're all just puking right now silently in their cars, wherever you're at. So anyway, that's kind of, those are the big broad categories. You've got commercial diets, you've got your home cooked diets, the raw diets, the fresh frozen diets. That's kind of the big four. I feel like.
Yeah, that's really.
And then prescriptions. Prescription diets. We talked about it before coming on the podcast. Like, how much do we want to delve into that? And I think that really. It kind of deserves its own space, because as you're talking about these diseases, like renal disease, okay, what does the diet for that look like?
Yeah.
Skin disease, okay, what does the diet for that look like? And so I think a lot of that will play out there, but just be aware that as dogs develop conditions, you may have to modify their diet to help minimize the symptoms of said disease.
Yeah. Probably the most common one that I feel like at least yesterday, I have a tale. I had a dog come in with a bladder stone. And
love that.
Yeah, that's a huge diet that we end up putting dogs on is called urinary SO by Royal Canin. And that will change the pH of the urine, make them drink more, and can dissolve stones and keep them from reforming.
And I tell clients all the time, what you're feeding your animal isn't wrong. We're not telling you to change your diet because there was something wrong with it. But what we are saying is that this food is like a medicine that can prevent the recurrence of these stones by changing the urine pH.
As we know, food is so important in health.
It is. And like our one of our biggest, the biggest part of our immune system is, your
what
gut.
We intake, in our gut. And so sometimes when you have a health problem that probably didn't necessarily for our dogs, because they're not eating fast food all the time.
Yeah.
They're not developing it because of their diet they were on, but they did develop it due to age or something. Switching them to those other foods are going to be
give their body the tools it
needs. A huge
needs.
brick in the treatment wall.
Absolutely. It is a huge brick
in
the treatment wall. And it is a wall made of many bricks.
Bricks, mortars.
Yeah. Such a great analogy. It comes up all the time.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. That's all we have for you today. But, that's, just skimming the surface. And eventually we'll dive into things deeper. If you happen to be in touch with us in general, you can always ask questions.
Yeah,
specifically.
Reach out, ask questions.
Please do. I think you can actually, on Spotify, you can actually comment.
I'm
waiting for my first one.
Give us 5 stars on Spotify.
Please do.
And
we're on
iTunes.
Apple. Yeah, Apple Podcasts is up now. We're going to get a YouTube channel eventually, but, one thing at a time here.
Yeah, and as you rate us 5 stars and leave a review, maybe we'll read the reviews
on
the
should.
podcast.
How fun for us, anyway. We appreciate y'all. Anybody who actually is listening to this, this is why we're here.
Yeah.
Educating is, my lifeblood. That's what keeps me going.
And it keeps your pets healthy and you in the know and empowers you.
You know what we could do is create an honorary Vet Tales degree. It has no value anywhere except for in your heart.
Yeah, it's a piece of paper.
There's a short quiz to see if you qualify.
Everybody line up and get a sticker.
You have to be able to quote one line from at least 4 different podcasts to prove that you listened. And then you get, you get a sticker chart maybe.
We just like tests.
Oh my gosh. But we do. All right. Okay, for real. That's all we got.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.